Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Agency Asset, episode number 3. I'm your host, Jonathan C. Chanowski, and today we've got TJ Dixon and Scott Mathis here with us to talk about engaging with the veterans community and population and the opportunities that you have with helping these folks make the most of all the available benefits that are out there for them to take advantage of, to support them in all of their needs that they may have, especially connected to the service that they made for our country. I'm going to toss it over to TJ here to do a quick intro. You heard from him on our last episode, and he's a man of many talents, so we've got him back today as well. TJ, just give us a quick intro on yourself, and then we'll give it over to Scott.
Yeah, absolutely, Jonathan. Thank you. And TJ Dixon, been in the industry 25 plus years. This subject's near and dear to my heart. I've got a rich family history of military service, and I'm just really excited to have Scott on today to just talk about how we can serve the great generation that has voluntarily served this country, and just really excited about this subject today. So thank you, Jonathan.
Awesome, TJ. Thanks. And Scott, let's hear a little bit on your background.
Hey, Jonathan, TJ, thanks. Scott Mathis. I'm with Humana. I'm a broker relations manager. I'm also a veteran, served 8 years in the Army. And when I came on with Humana, I started in the career side for a few years. And then I got promoted up to a veterans channel under Ed Sandrick at the time. And we just went from there, and we created a whole team of veterans and spouses of veterans just to see what we can do to help veterans, within the communities that we serve. So thanks for letting me come in today. I look forward to talking to everybody.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. Appreciate that. As we kind of think about this population, one thing that always comes back to me is especially thinking about it from like a health insurance agent perspective. You think, okay, probably a pretty big Medicare opportunity, but I want to take a moment and kind of talk about the broader set of benefits, especially those that come through Veterans Administration. Because I think there's a lot of opportunity for you as an agent to make sure that you're connecting your book of business and this community with those benefits, because they're very complementary with the Medicare benefits that are out there. So, Scott, do you want to give us a little bit of deeper dive into kind of the veterans affairs related benefits that are available out there for folks?
Sure, Jonathan. So the way it works is on a state level. So each state is different. So if I go on to my Mississippi Department of Veterans Affairs website, I can literally go on to that website, and I can look at all the benefits that I get for serving my country. So each benefit is different, and it's also based on your disability. So the disability comes from the VA, obviously. So we just try to, the best way to do it is to see a service officer, get with a veteran service officer. Don't get with, some attorney that's out there that's going to charge you. A veteran service officer will take care of you free of charge. You can get with them with the VFW, the American Legion, any of our veteran service organizations have a national or a statewide program that you can go to and ask for help. Okay, and they'll help you with your benefits. So, and then once you get your benefits, you can then go and look at the website. So some benefits you get can be tax related, tag related. You can get right now I get 2 free tags as a disabled veteran. I have certain taxes that are covered for my house and other things like that. So it's a broad thing. You can even get your funeral costs and everything. If you're 100% disabled in some states, you can be 90% in other states, and you can get your funeral and everything and your plot and everything reserved as a disabled veteran. So you kind of got to reserve those things because they go pretty fast. So.
Yeah, and I think a big thing that I've heard about is the medical side of the house from a benefits perspective. Can you give us a little bit more color on what's available there?
Yeah. Yeah, sure. That the medical side is good because of the sense that any veteran, not every veteran can go to the VA, but if you served if you served, in the regular army, as an example, not just the National Guard or the Air National Guard, it's helpful. Some of them can go to the VA. It's a little tricky. So explaining that is a longer story. But if I go to the VA, when I originally, and I'll use me as an example, if that's okay. What I did is I went to the VA originally, and before I had any disability benefits, the VA put me down as a priority 8, okay, which basically meant that if I went to the VA, I would have to pay copays and certain co-insurances. If I went into the hospital at the VA, I would have a set amount that I would have to pay. So it's not free as a priority 8, but once the VA looks over my disability claims, and then they moved me up to a priority 1 from an 8 to a 1. Now, all of a sudden, I don't have to pay anything when I go to the VA. Okay, so the VA, my coverage is free, my medications are free, so I don't have to do anything. So if you have a quality VA, which, some VAs are very, very good and others are not as good, unfortunately, but, it all depends on your VA and how much you can go. I know people that go all the time. I don't tend to go as much as I used to. So it is something that a veteran deserves to get, and you only have to go once a year to keep your status, to keep your medical benefits, but you never lose your disability benefits, if that's helpful.
Yeah, and then is there, I talked about medical. Are there other benefits like dental, vision, or is it kind of light in that space?
Great question. So dental and vision are typically assigned to those with 100% disability. I know they're trying to pass some stuff in Congress right now. I know the DAV is trying to pass dental for veterans. Any veteran that served to get dental, whether that happens or not remains to be seen. But right now, as we speak, dental is only covered for those with 100%, and vision is the same way. So if you have a vision disability, then obviously they'll cover it, but it's not covered at a 100%. Okay.
Okay. That's great. I appreciate that rundown. And then is there? I thought I read recently that there's also some home care benefits available for folks, again depending on their service level. Is that fair?
Yeah, in some states, again, if the VA has the capacity to do it, then they do it. Not every state has that access, unfortunately. So, I haven't seen that at all in Mississippi where I reside, but in other states like Texas, where they have a lot of VAs and have a lot of stuff there, yeah, it tends to be something that they offer dental clinics. Some of the places in Texas that I've been to, they have a dental clinic right inside the VA there. They have multivitamins that they'll give you. They have all kinds of stuff that they do. Unfortunately, other states don't have that same great access that Texas does, but that's just how the VA system works.
And Jonathan, I would also add
Yes.
that I experienced this firsthand with my father. He's retired military. He did not want to go to the VA, and we finally convinced him to go to the VA here where we live. And he was entitled to some things. I'll just give you an example. He was in Vietnam, and he was around where Agent Orange was. And because of that, he was entitled to some programs with the VA that he would have never known about had he not gone. So I just encourage anybody, if you serve this country, go find out what you're entitled to because you deserve it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I know. I have some of my own stories where my dad is a long time participant in the American Legion, and he and I have talked about this topic a couple times, and just making sure that everybody has the awareness that there's support out there, and then number two, taking advantage of it, because that's something that through your years of service, or the folks that you're working with, their years of service to the country, they've earned those benefits, and so let's take advantage of that value for them. From a VA versus Medicare, what kind of differences are there, right? I know there's some prescription differences, there's some medical care differences. Well, how do you kind of lay those out? TJ, do you have a few thoughts on how to compare and contrast those?
You know, there are definitely differences between how Medicare covers things and how they're going to get their coverage at the VA. What I would say is I'd actually defer to Scott if what his experience, what he's seen, with the folks that he's supported out in the communities, what differences he's seen with Medicare and VA, because he is the expert.
Yeah, that's a great question. And so the way I always, when I train individuals on this, or maybe I'm having a talk with a VFW, or at a state conference, or a regional conference, what I try to do is I tell everybody that veterans, you've earned your VA benefits, but you've also earned your benefits with Medicare, right? You've worked the time, you've done the time, you've paid into Medicare throughout all your years of working, so you might as well take advantage of both. Okay, that makes sense. So the difference with the VA and Medicare is that the VA doesn't take Medicare Advantage. Mm-hmm. So the only kind of Medicare that they really take is something that's owned by private insurance, like a Medicare supplement, or like something like Tricare for Life. They'll accept Tricare for Life. Obviously, it's a government agency, so that's something that they will accept, but they will not accept Medicare. So an individual that goes to the VA and let's just say they get on a Medicare plan of some sort, the VA is only going to ask for what they have other insurance for, right? So for me, as an example, I have my wife's insurance through the DOD, Department of Defense, and we have, if I go to the VA, then I give them my other insurance because the VA accepts it. So whatever is not part of my disability benefits, my compensation, right? Whatever is not a part of it, then the VA will try to charge my insurance for the remaining balance. But because I'm 100% disabled veteran, they're not supposed to do that. Does that make sense? It's supposed to be, if I'm 100%, or if I'm priority 1, which is anywhere from 50 to 100%, I don't pay anything when I go to the VA. That means anything, no matter why I go to the VA, I don't pay anything. Okay, so that's the biggest difference. So when they go outside of the VA, they use their Medicare card, right? Their Medicare Advantage card, or whatever they have. And then when they're in the VA, they just simply use my last 4 of my social, my last name, and I'm here just to prove who you are and that you're there, and that's it.
And I would add something I have seen that has not been beneficial to veterans is being given the guidance that they shouldn't take out Part B of Medicare. I would say do your homework, work with your VSO on that. There are options that you do have outside of the VA, and if you don't have Part B of Medicare, you do limit your options. So I think that's one thing I have seen being out in the community, working with veterans a lot, that there's been guidance given to not take out their Part B when they should.
Well, give me an example, TJ, of how that works.
So there are different programs out there that through Medicare they can have access to different benefits, dental, vision, other benefits like that you are required to have both Medicare's Part A and Part B to be eligible for that. While they can get much of their care through the VA, if they do want to access care or get secondary looks from other physicians, they are going to be limited on their access if they do not have both Medicare Part A and B. And I have seen veterans that while they can still get their Part B, they are delayed in getting their access to care by not already having that in place when they could have already had that in place, if that makes sense.
Yeah, do prescriptions work similarly like that, where it's harder to get access to it if you don't have a Medicare, like the full Medicare plan or suite, and you're just trying to run off the VA benefits?
I would say no, because, again, one doesn't communicate with the other, if that makes any sense, right? So if they get their meds from the VA, so as an example, when we built the honor plan, my team and I built the honor plan, we built it for that very reason, for veterans that are going to the VA and they're getting their medications from the VA. Okay. That was the main reason that we built a plan around veterans. So, because they already have other credible drug coverage. So they can literally go to the VA and get their drugs, their medications, get anything from a tier 0 to a tier 3 or tier 4, so it just really doesn't matter. But yeah, they don't have to have anything Medicare. They just have to have their part A. It doesn't really matter. But the problem, like TJ is saying, is that if you're a veteran and you're relying on the VA for your care, that's fine, but don't just rely on the VA. Have something else in your back pocket. So get your Part B. At one time, the VA was telling every veteran out there not to get their Part B. You don't need your Part B. You just need Part A. You come to the VA. And they're right. But what they weren't realizing is that they're kind of hurting them in the long run, because there's a penalty that's going to be paid, right? They're going to have to owe a penalty. And the veterans didn't know that. So a lot of these veterans now are in the age of 80, 75 to 80 years old. And when they go back and look at the penalty, it's impossible for them to afford to pay for it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a great advice, to make sure that you're evaluating kind of on the individual level what what's your budget, what's your needs, how do we best serve that individual with the complement of available benefits out there, whether that's VA, whether that's Medicare, whether that's a combination of both. Is that the right way to look at it?
Yeah, for sure. And education is key to all this, right? If we can educate, veterans out there have, they're not, their healthcare options are kind of limited, right? So if I'm a veteran and I retired, then obviously I have Tricare for life. So, I can have that as a retiree or somebody that was maybe medically discharged from the military. Okay. And I could no longer do my job. Then I would be given Tricare Prime or Select at the time, and then it would move into Tricare for life once I get my Part B in Medicare, right? So it's a sticky subject, and a lot of veterans, unfortunately, Vietnam veterans who went through the worst of the worst, right, when they came home, it's unfortunate that a lot of them never got their Part B, and so they're fighting a battle right now, and it's another battle that they don't need to be fighting. It needs to be just given to them.
Yeah, what's some good ways that you see to help agents with their education of clients on the subject? Are there some good reference materials that you've seen that we should connect folks to here?
Yeah, each company, I think each Medicare company out there has their own type of training. I think they're putting on for agents that they have. So as an example, we have a training set that we do. We've done it when I was with the Veterans Channel at Humana, and we trained, I don't know how many people, TJ, but you can tell we trained a lot of people. We started with our career agents and then worked our way to our partner agencies that we have, and we would do trainings every single month. It was something that we did year round. Now, unfortunately, we don't have that same access, so we try to do it on a national level and invite everybody from our websites and stuff like that, and I'm sure all these other companies are doing the same thing. But that's the best way, is to try to find some company that's doing a good educated training where they're telling them the right information, telling them what they need to know, not what they want to hear, but they need to know that not everybody needs to be put on, that has Tricare for life, needs to be put on a Medicare Advantage plan, right? Without explaining the everything that's going to happen if they get put on one. Okay.
Well, Yeah, and let's maybe dig into that a little bit. So there's kind of your standard VA benefits. I'll call them standard, and then you've got like Tricare for Life. You've got ChampVA. Could you help us understand a little bit of the differences there? Right, when is a good scenario for someone that has Tricare for Life? When they should consider Medicare Advantage, or someone that's got ChampVA, should they consider Medicare Advantage at all? I imagine there's fairly distinct scenarios where that makes a lot of sense, and probably some where it doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, that's a good question. So, veteran health care out there is like you said, you have Tricare for Life, which you have to be retired military, like I said earlier, as well as, maybe medically retired. And then, serve 20 years, or I was medically retired after 10, and then I get on Tricare. And that stays with me for the rest of my life. Okay. And then you have ChampVA, which is basically the spouse of a 100% disabled veteran, or maybe a veteran that passed away while on active duty, or a veteran that maybe passed away from their service, veteran service condition, right? So if, like TJ mentioned earlier, Agent Orange, if you have a Vietnam veteran that passed away from Agent Orange, the possibility of that spouse, even if they've already passed, getting on ChampVA is very, very likely. So have that conversation, but you got to know which questions to ask and how to do that. So it's all about your audience and what I would sit down with somebody and I would always ask a question. Did you serve in the military? And if they did, well, thank you for your service. And then you move on to the qualifying questions. Look at their health. Ask them how they're doing. If they have Tricare for Life and they're 80 years old and maybe they don't want to deal with, looking at networks and stuff like that, just in case, Tricare doesn't pick it up, the coverage, we don't want to give them a headache. We want to make life as easy on them as possible, right? So that's what we try to do. And with our education, at least where I'm working now, that's what we do. And we do the best we can, and it's just hard to touch everybody.
Yeah, and so that example you're talking about, 80 years old, doesn't want to deal with maybe some of the complexities of like a Medicare Advantage complementary plan. Are they better served kind of with original Medicare then at that point?
Yeah, great point. Yeah, you definitely, if somebody out there, if they're 80 years old, they have a lot of health conditions. They don't want to, they're not traveling around, that's one thing. But if they are traveling around, they're maybe seeing their family. You just got to be careful and just, say, look, you're great. You have Medicare as primary. So your Medicare being primary is wonderful. You don't need to do anything else. Your Medicare is primary so that it covers what Medicare covers. And then the rest, the other 20% is covered by Tricare for Life. So they don't pay anything out of their pocket at all. So why are we going to confuse that with somebody that needs the help? If somebody calls you up and says, look, I travel around a lot. I want to save money. I want to get dental insurance. I'm paying way too much for dental insurance. I hate paying this Part B premium. It's a pain. Then, talk to them about here's the difference between Medicare and a Medicare Advantage. Give those differences to them and then explain it to them and then explain it again. You can't. Yeah. TJ will tell you, you can do this. You can do our trainings, 5 times and you still don't know everything. It's taken me 5 to 7 years to learn everything that I've learned about it. So.
Yeah, and I think in some ways, right, I look at this as this is a real opportunity as an agent to be a trusted resource, and that a lot of us probably try to shy away from complexity, and then there's a lot of missed opportunity with that for these folks to get the benefits that they've got. And so what I'm hearing is that it's best as an agent that you can help present yourself as a strong resource to manage through that complexity and ultimately drive the greatest value for your client.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with that, Jonathan. And I would say a great first move for an agent out there, if they haven't worked the veteran space, first look for those veteran trainings that the different carriers offer out there. As Scott said, Humana's got a great veteran training program. But the second thing I would do is I would find out who your VSOs are locally, go meet them, tell them that you're wanting to help veterans in the community, and partner with them and bring veterans to them so they can see that you are authentic and you're truthful, that you really do want to help these veterans out, and bring veterans to them, especially ones that maybe do not understand the help that they can get from the veteran service officers. And they'll get them plugged into programs that they may have no idea are available to them, and you have now helped that veteran out. Plus, the VSO or the veteran service officer is seeing that you really do want to help the veterans out, so they're going to help plug you into more areas where you can be that trusted partner to the veterans in the community.
Great, and I love kind of where you're headed here, TJ. Like, tell me how that works. Like, do you literally just walk into a VA office and say, "Who's the veteran service officer?" and strike up a conversation with them?
I mean, technically, yes, you can absolutely do that. What I think works better is you're going to find that different carriers, Scott in his area, build a relationship with those carrier partners, find out who their broker managers are, especially if there's somebody like Scott who is a veteran. Build a relationship with Scott. He'll take you out to meet some of these veteran service officers and build a relationship that way. But what I'll remind all of you is VSOs are human beings just like you are. And if you walk in and you want to help them help other people, they are going to want to work with you. And if you go in and you're trying to get something out of that personally, they're going to see right through that. Be authentic, be honest, tell them why it is important to you to help veterans out, and be real about it. I have a whole family history, so when I go in, I really do want to help veterans out. That's what I'm looking to do. Other stuff comes from that. Well, I'll get in front of more people because of that, but I'm going in for a true reason because I want to help veterans. There are so many out there that still do not understand that they have so much entitled care and access to other programs that they're not learning about, and that's what you should really make it your mission, to teach people the programs that they've earned by serving this great country.
Great. And so you mentioned, veteran service officers. I think Scott or you mentioned, some of the social organizations like an American Legion or a VFW. Scott, TJ, what have you found some good success working with those social or community organizations, like making yourself again I would imagine very similar, like a resource to assist with folks that are part of those organizations. Is that right?
Yeah, especially, with Humana, it's been great because we have veteran service organizations like the VFW, who is a national partner with us. So we have VFWA, we have DAV, Disabled American Veterans, and we have AMVETS, American Veterans. All three have organizations on the community level, on the state level. So the more you do with them, you can't just tie yourself in and just join the auxiliary and just think that you're just going to get sales. You have to start by doing well by doing good. And like TJ was saying, you got to lead with your heart, and the sales and everything else will come. It just doesn't happen overnight. And that's why I was blessed to work with the Veterans Channel at Humana, because I learned that, and it was a good thing to learn, because you're really helping first, and then you're building that trust. As a veteran, me talking to another veteran is different than somebody that's not a veteran talking to a veteran, and so it's different. But what I say and what I do is going to be different than this agent that I'm taking into a VFW to talk about setting up, maybe Medicare 101s for veterans to help educate them more on, their Medicare, because we don't do enough of that, right? And so, not only do you get the Medicare and U book, but you're dealing with the VA, and you're dealing with, can I go to the VA? Should I go to the VA? Is the VA going to drop me if I have something other than the VA? And there's no truth in that whatsoever. So education, education, education is the key, is the first thing to start. And then get out in the community. If you can't get the education through a training session, through somebody like me or anybody in our organization, then go out in the community and learn firsthand. That's what I did. You know, even though I'm a veteran, I was so busy. I had small kids at the time. I didn't have the opportunity to go out there and do the things that I wanted to do until I came into this business some 12, 13 years ago. So it's been wonderful and eye-opening at the same time. But you don't feel like you're working when you're doing something that you enjoy doing. So it's a great job.
Absolutely. I know TJ Scott, you kind of mentioned or referred to this strength of the community here, and I know as agents, we always think about referrals, right? Our best source of business are referrals from the clients that we've engaged and helped through this process. Is this a fairly strong referral community as well? Like, how have you seen folks take advantage of building referrals within the community?
Yeah, so great question, Jonathan. It absolutely is. I would share, 9+ million veterans are 65 years or older. And when you add in their spouses, you're talking 14 million folks with their spouses. 1 in 5 veterans are Medicare beneficiaries. What I would tell you to do first is every person you walk into, or if you're at a kitchen table, or if you're at a retail, ask them, are you a veteran? It's just as simple as when I was talking about on our last podcast about asking for a referral. Do you always ask for a referral? I always ask if they were a veteran. And then what I would tell you, and I think Scott would back this up, find out where they served. If they served in Vietnam, one thing you could simply do is welcome them home, because they did not get welcomed home from Vietnam. And that you would be shocked at how emotional a veteran will get that was in Vietnam when you say, welcome home, thank you for your service. They truly appreciate that. But there is a lot of opportunity as long as you're doing it in the right way. And I love what Scott said about doing well by doing well. If you're there to help them, educate them, help the veteran find some missed opportunities or missed programs that they didn't know they had access to, and you're educating them, and then you're getting them in contact with somebody that can walk them through that journey of working through the VA like a veteran service officer, you're really helping somebody out personally, and they are going to tell people about you. I've seen it firsthand.
Now, you said doing it the right way. Like, I want to dig in on that a little bit. Like, what? And I know you it feels like you gave me a little bit of a intro on that, TJ. But when you say do it the right way, can you expand on that a little for us?
Sure, I'll do that, and then Scott, maybe you add to it. But I'll just give you an example. If you're going to stop by a VFW or an American Legion, don't walk in with your first thought of being, I want to get a seminar set up here, or I want to do this or that program here. Go in, introduce yourself, tell them why you're there, and ask them, what can I do to help you? What are you looking to do here at the VFW? Is it important for you all to grow your membership here? How can I help you do that? And sit and listen to what their needs are. I've seen many agents that have gone in, taken their time, had patience, and they'll find out. I'll just give an example of a place in Arkansas. Their flagpole got destroyed in a storm. Well, the agent worked with a carrier, got a sponsorship to help them have their flagpole rebuilt at their VFW post. This agent went and did that, found that resource for them, and helped them out, and then helped them build their membership. That VFW is going to trust that agent that this person's here doing it the right way because they're supporting us. They're not looking for support back.
Yeah, so it's engaging with authenticity, exactly. with passion for delivering value for this community, irregardless of kind of the end benefit that you might receive individually. Is that the right way to frame it?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, I would kind of add to that. Just as a broker relation manager now, or as a veteran executive, how I was before, we would train agents. We would create what's called boots on the ground teams. And they were agents that we trained ourselves that were basically certified, to sell to veterans, because they have to understand that if you walk in the door and you immediately start talking about, hey, I have this Medicare Advantage plan. It's wonderful. It's called the Honor Plan, and everybody needs to be on it. That's just, the veterans are going to kind of look at you and just scowl at you and just, you can get on out. That's not how it works. You have to lead with your heart, right? Do things the right way, and know that the sales will come eventually. But, some people, it takes longer to ask for the business than others. Like I said earlier, for me, I can walk in and say, why are you not on this plan? You're crazy, and I can have that discussion, but somebody else new cannot do that. So we have to teach them to do the things the right way and to lead with their heart, and then the sales will follow. And we have a lot of people out there, that career agents or, partnered agents, that have done their due diligence and that work really hard in their communities that they serve. And whether it's doing food drives or health fairs at VFWs or DAVs, anything like that, is bringing something to the table. We're getting the outside community involved. Everybody's getting involved. Veterans, non-veterans. You got nonprofits that are helping veterans, that you get involved in these health fairs, because it's not just about health. It's mental health, right, and physical health. It's everything. Nowadays, we see more and more people. There's more veterans committing suicide today than ever before. And we can't have that. We got to do something to stop that. And the best way to stop that is to get them involved in their community programs that they have going on. Get them involved in the DAV if they qualify, in the VFW or the American Legion, just if they served, So a lot of people don't seem to understand that. But if we can pay it forward that way as a veteran, or like TJ himself, a family with veterans, he knows the business. He knows how it is. And to us, it's meaningful, and it comes from the heart. So we lead that way, and everybody else kind of follows us, and it works well.
Yeah. So Scott, I know you mentioned a few things kind of just outside of the medical benefits, or the benefits that we kind of talked about today. What are there a couple resources that you see are pretty common that we ought to connect to, thinking about like mental health, or maybe specific disease states, or something that you've seen has been a good connection point for veterans that we haven't spoken about so far?
Now, I think, the Agent Orange thing is a big thing. And I think that now that the military is really looking at PTSD as a real thing, back when I got out of the military, I really couldn't talk about me having a traumatic brain injury or having PTSD. We didn't know what it was when I got out of the military. So it was like, okay, I'm feeling down and depressed. Let me go and do something before I get back into society. The military really doesn't teach individuals. They teach you your job very well once you get in the military, but after you get out, they really don't teach you how to acclimate to the real world. And that's important. Making that connection immediately when somebody's getting out of the military is so important, no matter what they did, because it's different. A lot of folks went in when they were 17, 18. Heck, back in World War II, they were going in at 14, 15, right? Yeah. They get out of the military and they didn't complain. They didn't do anything. They just went straight into work and doing what they did. And Vietnam veterans did the same thing. Mm-hmm. Nowadays, we come out of the war. We've fought in the longest war we've ever fought in, with Afghanistan and stuff. So we have to make sure that we're making that connection as soon as they get out, whether it's helping them with a job, helping them, get back into the community. They should already be connecting with a service officer. So a lot of service officers have that connection at military bases, and they do the best they can. But there's so little of them compared to how many people are getting out. And a lot of them focus on these just veterans that served as, maybe a Navy SEAL or a Ranger battalion and stuff like that. They're tier one operators, so they think that they're going to have the biggest problems. Anybody, whether you worked in transportation, whether you worked in anything, flying jets, anything can cause PTSD. So we have to do what we can to see that and catch it early, so they don't lose their families, they don't lose anybody else, and then commit suicide, because that's the horrible thing about it.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Scott. As we kind of come to a close, Scott, TJ, anything else that you want to make sure that we communicate out to agents or agencies looking to better build relationships with the veterans community?
I can't really think of anything else. TJ, do you have anything else that we were wanting to discuss?
Yeah, I think I just reiterate that there is a lot of opportunity out there to help some very well-deserved individuals that serve this great country. And don't be afraid to walk in a VFW or an American Legion or even some places like Shriners or Elks Lodges. There's so many places, Knights of Columbus, so many different places where there are many veterans out there. Don't be afraid to introduce yourself. Tell them who you are. Let them know that you really want to help veterans, and here's some ways that you've helped veterans in the past. Get to know the VSOs. Like Scott was saying, they may not. You may run into veterans that aren't even on Medicare yet. Well, help them out. That help them get to a VSO, because you're doing well by doing right, and that's just going to help you build your acumen around understanding how to help veterans in the community. And I don't know who wouldn't have a passion for doing this. If you don't, I would say stay away from it. I would say probably 99.9% of us have a passion for helping the veterans in this country, because they've served great causes out there, and we have the freedoms that we have in this country because of them. But don't be afraid to go look up your carrier partners. Most of them all have plans that are geared towards veterans. They have trainings. You know, if you're in Mississippi, look up Scott. He's outstanding. I've worked with Scott for many years, and he does it the right way. You know, him being a veteran, you know, the one thing I will say is my dad used to always say, because I was one of the family members that didn't serve, son, if you haven't sat in the chair, you haven't sat in the chair, but you can still help a veteran out. So I would leave it with that.
Great.
Yeah,
Well, Scott,
great point. Yeah.
Scott, TJ, I appreciate your time today. A couple things that I learned and just want to recap, as we do with every episode, is one, this is a great opportunity for you as an agent to demonstrate commitment to a community that really deserves our support and has, from a complexity standpoint, a really good opportunity for you as an agent to serve as a valued resource to help folks navigate through the complex nature of veterans benefits, and pairing that with benefits outside of what's available to them through the Veterans Administration, things like Medicare, dental, vision, home care, etc. From a engagement in the community, TJ and Scott made some great points on how do you start that process, right? In many ways, it starts by you have to show up and you have to demonstrate your willingness to engage this population and helping them with where their needs are. And I think 3 is, and we've heard this on a couple of our other episodes, is it really comes down to doing an individual assessment as to what the right mix and use and available benefits are for that individual. So with that, I'm going to wrap it up. Remind everybody that's watching is please like, subscribe. You'll find links to resources that we might have mentioned or will build as part of this below in the description. Thanks, everybody, and looking forward to seeing you at our next episode.